In today's episode, we dive deep into three heartbreaking cases where personal conflicts spiraled into devastating tragedies. You're watching Epicenter Express, and I'm your host, Andrel Hill. In our first story, Keenan Taylor, who was 32 years old at the time, was a married man with a young daughter living in Clinton, Maryland. He began having an affair with Ebony Wright, age 31. This is a woman he knew back from when they were in high school together. After being intimately involved for about 2 years, Ebony became pregnant. Now, Keenan, he did not want a baby with her. He was furious and demanded Ebony to have an abortion. When she refused, he ended the affair. In January 2021, Ebony gave birth to a little boy named Grayson. Fed up with Keenan and his childish ways, she filed papers for custody and child support in March. Upon being served, Keenan said, "You know what? I think it's a good idea for me to be a father to this child." So he got in contact with Ebony and stated he wanted to meet his son. On April 12, 2021, at 7:12 p.m., Keenan went to visit Ebony and baby Grayson at her two-bedroom apartment. She lived in the 2300 block of Good Hope Court Southeast in Washington, D.C. At the apartment was her mother, Wanda, and her college-age sister, Destiny. Keenan held his then 3-month-old son for the first time. He stared grazingly and lovingly into his son's eyes and fed him his bottle. He was at the apartment for about an hour when he went to the bathroom. When he returned to the living room, he was totally different. He shot Ebony in the head and Wanda in the back of her head. Destiny was in one of the bedrooms when she heard the shots. Before she could really understand what was going on, Keenan rushed into the room and shot her in her face. He then went back into the living room and set it on fire, using the child support papers as an igniter. He then attempted to dismantle the Ring camera before taking off. Destiny, despite being in excruciating pain, heard her baby nephew crying and ran into the burning living room to save him. She grabbed the baby and ran outside, where the police were then called. During the investigation, police reviewed the footage from the Ring camera. They saw a man wearing a face mask. Now, while he was trying to destroy the camera, he revealed a unique tattoo on his forearm. Now, Destiny, she was unable to speak. You see, the bullet ripped into her cheek. However, she was able to identify her mother and sister's killer by writing Keenan's name on a piece of paper while in the ambulance. When police interviewed Keenan, they saw the same unique tattoo that was shown on the camera. It was his daughter's name and birth date. Surveillance footage in the apartment complex parking lot showed him entering and leaving the premises. Thanks to the overwhelming evidence, he was arrested and taken into custody. On July 26, 2024, he was found guilty of 2 counts of first-degree murder while armed with aggravated circumstances, assault with intent to kill while armed, aggravated assault while armed, attempted first-degree murder of a minor, second-degree cruelty to children, arson, and destruction of property. In addition to these charges, Turner was found guilty of 4 counts of possession of a firearm during the commission of a crime of violence and carrying a pistol without a license. And on October 24th, 2024, he was sentenced to 68 years in prison. Today, Grayson is now 3 years old and currently lives with Ebony's godmother. Destiny plans to raise Grayson when she finishes college. She stated, although her mother and sister are no longer physically with her, she knows they are there in spirit. This next story is how one stupid mistake can prove to be deadly. On August 5th, 2020, Kevin Bowie, age 16, and his 2 friends, Gavin Seymour, age 16, and Dylan Siebert, age 14, set out to take revenge on a thief. You see, Kevin was robbed by someone who was trying to buy a gun from him. His phone, money, and shoes were stolen. Using an iPad, Kevin tracked his phone's location and tracked it to what was assumed to be the thief's address, 5312 Truckee Street in the Green Valley Ranch section of Denver, Colorado. Dressed in full-face masks and hoodies, the 3 teens set out for revenge. In the middle of the night, they trespassed on the property and set the house on fire. The fire was out of control. 3 people, 2 adults and 1 child, jumped out the second-floor window and sustained minor injuries. Unfortunately, the people on the first floor were not so lucky. Jabril Deal, his wife adjacent, their 22-month-old daughter Khadijah, Jabril's sister Hassan, and her 7-month-old daughter Hawa Bey were trapped and sadly died in the fire. For months, the police feared it was a hate crime because the family was from Senegal. Police worked vigorously to locate the assailants who murdered the family. Through digital evidence, surveillance footage, and witness statements, they were able to identify the perpetrators. They tracked cell phone records and discovered the killers had been in the area of the crime around the time of the fire. Investigators also reviewed social media posts and text messages that indicated a connection to the incident. Additionally, surveillance footage from nearby locations captured images of vehicles, and individuals that matched descriptions linked to Bowie and his associates. On January 27, 2021, the thugs were captured and charged with first-degree murder, first-degree arson, and burglary. One of the suspects, the youngest, Dylan Siebert, pleaded guilty in December 2022 and was convicted of second-degree murder and use of a weapon during a violent crime. He was sentenced to only 7 years in prison since he played a minor role in the deadly attack. He has a suspended sentence of 26 years, which could be reinstated if he violates the terms of his plea agreement. 3 of those 7 years were spent in a juvenile detention center, and the remaining 4 will be spent in a state prison program for young offenders. Now, Gavin Seymour pleaded guilty to second-degree murder in January, and in March 2024, he was sentenced to 40 years in prison. As for the ringleader, Kevin Bowie, he stated he didn't mean to hurt anyone. He realized he had the wrong address when he saw the news and social media reports. In any event, he pleaded guilty and in July 2024 was sentenced to 60 years in prison. Their reckless vigilantism caused the family so much pain and anguish. In this next story, we see how hurt people hurt people. Elgin Wilson was 16 years old when he tragically lost his 21-year-old brother, Jameer Harris Sr., to gun violence on January 17, 2017. Jameer was shot in his upper torso due to a drug debt on 7th and Market Streets in Wilmington, Delaware. He was rushed to Christiana Hospital where he succumbed to his injuries. Antonio Russell, who was 18 at the time, was arrested and charged with first-degree murder and 2 weapons charges. On August 21, 2018, he pleaded guilty to manslaughter, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, and possession of a firearm by a person prohibited. And on August 25, 2019, he was sentenced to 15 years in prison. This obviously was not good enough for Elgin. On October 25, 2018, the day after her 47th birthday, Shirley Coleman, a mother of 5, was on the 999 block of Spruce Street when an assailant came out of nowhere and shot her multiple times. She was killed instantly. An investigation into the murder showed surveillance footage which revealed the shooting was not random. A Buick Lucerne was spotted near the scene of the crime and was also seen parked at the home of Elgin Wilson. 5 days later, Elgin was arrested on unrelated drug charges and his 2 phones were confiscated. It was revealed through text messaging and witness testimony that he was avenging his brother's death by killing Miss Coleman, the mother of Antonio Russell. After a lengthy investigation, Elgin was indicted by a grand jury on April 15, 2019. He was charged with first-degree murder, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, and 3 counts of a firearm by a person prohibited, as well as criminal contempt. On August 26, 2022, he pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and was sentenced to 20 years in prison. He was also sentenced to 2 years for conspiracy in the second degree. In the scheme of things, these stories show just how revenge is not sweet. It can be deadly. Thank you for watching. Stay informed, stay connected, and stay in the know with Epicenter Xpress. If you are enjoying these videos, please make sure you like and subscribe.